Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to show you how I use GitHub Copilot to be able to update an existing static website in lightning speed. Let me show you. So here I already have my website's repository cloned on my local machine, and as you can see here, I described the intent that I wanted to apply in terms of a change to this code. I say that I want to change my website buy box for my real estate commercial business such that it reflects the content that you see here. If you're interested in how I even started to begin with to use AI to build this code, be sure to check out the above video here where I show step-by-step how I did that with Replit.ai and then migrated that over to a repository for me to use GitHub Copilot. But for now, as you see here, I went ahead and submitted that intent, and the AI has already gone through, analyzed the code, identified the necessary files it needed to change, and gone ahead and made those changes. As I scroll down though, I'll also want to now create almost an entire new request that wasn't in place. I want to go ahead and add a new section where in this website, I have the ability to describe any deals I have already analyzed and show examples on what kind of returns my investors would be able to make. And after I described that intent, I went ahead and submitted that to GitHub Copilot, and that's all it needed for it to be able to determine the locations where it needed to make those changes, and it told me where it wanted to go ahead and start making the changes to begin with. So now I went ahead and said, great, now let's build and run the application locally so I can review those changes and be able to determine if they look good or not. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that request, and it looks like it's going to go ahead and it needs to install various different dependencies. And if you're not a software engineer, you might say to yourself, gee, like how can I actually know what's going on here? And again, AI can help bridge that knowledge gap so that you can learn along the way. But if you are familiar with what's going on here, you'll quickly understand that we went ahead and built the code so that it's in a deployable package. And as we did that, it did come back and realize that as we were installing dependencies, that we have some vulnerabilities. This is actually a huge shock though. If I used Replit.ai as is, those NPM packages, those dependencies have critical security vulnerabilities that come with it. So I'm glad I moved away from Replit.ai and started doing this on my own so I can at some point address those vulnerabilities and get rid of them. Okay, so now we're running the npm run dev command so that we can now look at our website within our IDE in VSCode and start taking a look to see the changes that the GitHub Copilot has made for us. So let me make this window a little bigger and let me just take a look. Everything so far looks the same as what my website used to look. I'm gonna click the broker tab where I give brokers information on how they can get in touch with me. And there, as we can see here, is our updated buy box, just like I wanted to see. So this so far looks pretty good. Let's go back to the home page now and take a look at the new section where in the future I plan on adding all of the deals that I have analyzed in video form. And yeah, you can see here, that's our section right there. It says coming soon. And then at the very bottom, it does say subscribe to our YouTube channel for updates. But nowhere do I actually mention what my YouTube channel is or a link or anything really that would make you as a viewer quickly be able to discover that. So I'm gonna go over to the right-hand tab of GitHub Copilot and start typing in a new update request. And that's going to be that I wanna be able to take this section and be able to now add my actual YouTube link to my channel, as well as add a profile image that resembles my YouTube channels. So as I type that out, it is worth noting that I have already downloaded the image that I want to use as part of that logo. And so at some point, I'm gonna go ahead and tell that to the AI that that's what I wanna use. So let's go over to our attached assets. You see here the YouTube channel image in the PNG format. So I'm gonna click it and drag it over to our request. And after that, just review the rest of the request. It all looks good. We'll go ahead and submit that. And we're gonna fast forward through all of these requests. Usually they take a little bit more time than what you'll see here, but that way we can just focus on reviewing the outputs. So it looks like now it wants to go ahead and reopen a website now that it's finished making the changes. Actually, no, first it wants to open up a website to view the current state, just to get an understanding of what the current view is. And now that it has the current view, it looks like it is going to update that analyze steals component so that it can reflect the changes we've instructed it to do. And it's now running an npm run build command to recompile the code and produce that deployable package that we can now test to see how it looks later. Okay. And it looks like it still wants to go ahead and take a screenshot of the changes so it can verify by itself systematically how it looks and determine if it's sufficient. In order to do that, it's using an extension called Playwright code. Now, Playwright is a solution that precisely allows you to do automated UI testing such as this. It's very powerful. If you don't know how to get started with this, not to worry. It's not that difficult, but I won't cover that in this particular video. Happy to make a video of it in the future if folks want me to. But as we see here, now that's what it looks like. We've got a much more visually appealing section here. It says clearly subscribe on YouTube, but it still doesn't have my image showing there. And after I typed that into the GitHub Copilot, it did tell me that the reason is because we do need to move it over to a new location. So I'm okay moving it into this client public directory. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it, let's proceed with option 1. Moving the image from where it's currently at over to its recommended location in the public dist directory, So we'll go ahead and submit that request. It asks us to run a particular PowerShell command. And again, when you're reviewing these commands, it is also worthwhile to take a look at them. It is a potential vulnerability if you just run all commands without reviewing them, which does beg the question, if you don't know what the command does, how do you look it up? And that's where you can learn along the way as well to become familiar with what commands you're running. It really just depends on how rigorous you want to be when you're doing this type of development. If you are a software engineer by nature, you definitely want to take the time to understand what the command is, if you don't know it, what it's doing, so that you can learn along the way and ensure that it is a secure command. Okay, so now that it looks like it has finished rebuilding the code, it wants us to rerun a command to open up the browser. So let's go ahead and tell it to go ahead and do that. And looks like now it's trying to continuously capture the images space so that it can, again, systematically know if it's made the changes. It asks me to run a command so it can scroll down. I say yes, and then automatically ended up scrolling down. It's taking a screenshot just to make sure that it's happy with where it's at. It scrolled down a little bit more to get a better view of things. And it looks like afterwards, it looks like it's happy with this. However, I'm not very happy because I've got this nasty looking border placeholder around the image itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain to the GitHub Copilot that I want to remove that border. It's at this point where, because these tokens are limited and you can easily exhaust them and or really increase your cost usage, things like this might actually be worthwhile for you to edit by yourself and not rely on the AI. But again, that's just a matter of pure personal preference, what kind of tier you're paying for. And in this particular case, I'm more than comfortable delegating this out to the AI so I can tell it just to remove it. And as you see here, it's not just a matter of removing that border. It went ahead and applied CSS and styling to it to make it look more appealing. And I actually like the way it turned out. So we're gonna go ahead and accept all of this and now submit the more important issue, which is all of those 11 vulnerabilities that we found, 7 of which were high security issues. So I went ahead and asked the GitHub Copilot, go ahead and fix these. And it's not just a matter of fixing them. There is a command that you just saw us run called npm audit fix that will automatically fix any vulnerabilities as long as they don't introduce breaking changes. But even then, there is one high vulnerability that remains that would require a potential force fix, which could cause breaking issues. Now, before we just blindly accept that, I'm gonna go ahead and ask GitHub Copilot to first analyze what that vulnerability, what that package with a vulnerability does, and analyze our current code base to determine how it's being used so that we have a good plan on assessing if a breaking change is going to happen after we address that vulnerability, and if so, what is that plan that we plan on addressing to be able to make sure that our functionality isn't impacted. So let's go ahead and submit that request and see what GitHub Copilot comes back with. So it's doing a lot of thinking here, taking a look through all the relevant code, and it looks like it says that there are 3 or 4 packages from Drizzle. Looks like it has something to do with an ORM when we're interacting with a post-grade database, something which, by the way, we're not actually doing anymore here. This was probably a very early version of the code when we were using Replit.ai and we were actually interacting with the database. So once again, Replit.ai was using a pretty severe vulnerability to host a website, so that's not okay. Glad I moved away from it, and now because I'm not using a database anymore, this is a static web application, I'm just going ahead and I'm going to ask GitHub Copilot to flat out just remove all of those packages, because we don't need to address the vulnerability. We can just simply get rid of the dependency altogether since we're not using it. So here it identified a total of 4 things it needs to remove. It asks me to confirm the changes, which I went ahead and did because in real time I kind of glanced at it and I determined that it's a safe removal. It's part of the plan that we've already agreed to. So it's not like I'm just blindly accepting these things. I already have a plan in mind that we are working towards, and I'm making sure that we're abiding by that plan. Okay, so now that we've removed that, we reinstalled npm dependencies and we see that we had 0 vulnerabilities. Awesome. We rebuilt the package, the solution altogether to produce that one package, and it says done. So at this point, we are done with the code changes. If you want to, this is a great place, now that we've done some UI validation, to take a look at the actual changes, the new code, and once again, do a few things. One is, if you don't understand what it's doing, use AI to learn while you're doing this. And most importantly, you are still responsible for this code. So you do want to make sure that it's abiding by best practices, clean code principles, secure code, readable code. Really, in terms of how rigorous you're going to do that is going to depend on your personal preferences and or on the team that you're working with. But because this is my own website, I'm not going to be as rigorous about it. I'm just going to make sure that I understand it and that I don't see any security vulnerabilities, which I don't. So now I'm going to go ahead and ask GitHub Copilot to help me generate a git commit message so I can add a commit and then push it to my repositories so that I don't risk the chance of losing any of this in case my laptop decides to crash. So let's take a look at what GitHub Copilot wants to do. It wants to go ahead and add and run a git add command so that we can stage all changes. And then it looks like it produced this git commit message, but nowhere here does it actually talk about the new functionality we added, which was adding our subscribe to YouTube channel, and specifically in our section where we're going to be sharing previous deals that we've analyzed and their potential returns. So I'm going to go ahead and tell GitHub Copilot, hey, you missed that. That's a new addition. So we need to make sure that that's captured as part of our git commit message. The rest of the content it put in that original git commit looks good. It does tell me exactly what packages were removed and the fact that we did that to address some npm security vulnerabilities. So looks like GitHub Copilot has now produced a much more verbose, complete git message, multiple lines, looks great. We're gonna go ahead and run that command and then allow it to run the git push command so that we can push our code over to our repository. All right, at this point, looks like GitHub Copilot is summarizing everything that we've done. Everything looks good. So now what I want to do is, for just sanity's sake, I'm going to run an npm run build command one last time to produce inside of the dist directory a public directory with all of the actual source code that we need to then go over to wherever you're using this, whatever you're using to host your static application. In my case, that's Google Cloud. And I'm going to go over to my Google Cloud bucket and delete the old source artifacts that were compiled, as you see here, and I'm going to upload the new ones. And in this particular case, I'm uploading everything inside of the public directory, including our image, our index.html file. And then after we finish uploading those 3 files, we're going to go ahead, I'm trying to find where the refresh button is here. Oh, there it is, top right. So we're going to click refresh. There is our favicon icon, our profile, our index HTML page, and now we're going to go inside of the asset directory and do something similar. But instead of deleting these files, I'm just going to go ahead and upload the 3 new files. I'll go inside of the assets directory, select all of them, and it's important here to select overwrite object and to apply this for the rest of the 3 files. And it's just going to go ahead and update those 3 files in real time. No need to delete them. Now, if we click refresh in our browser like we just did here, well, what happened? We don't see those changes. And that's because it's cached. In order to remove that cache, we got to go back to Google Cloud, search for load balancing, click our load balancer, and then be able to go to the cache invalidation tab and provide our host name, which is our URL, and then this path of / and an asterisk, which stands for a wildcard. And after you select the button invalidate, you can go back, refresh the page, and now check this out. There is our new section called Analyze Deals, where in the future I'm going to have a sliding window where people can see all of the deals that I've analyzed and learn my process, my rigor, and what types of returns my investors can get. And of course, I link to my YouTube channel as well. If you found this video helpful and you want to learn more about how to use AI to build software solutions, not just at speed, at scale, but doing it with enterprise quality, be sure to check out my YouTube channel for some more tips around this. And if you do want to learn about anything in specific, just drop in the comments below and I'll be sure to make a video on those topics. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.